is known to bind and for a long, long time, decades, been assumed to be immobile in soil. We know that's not quite the case anymore. There is a small fraction that will be mobilized. It will dissolve, it will move. All that phosphorus that's added in, whether it's commercial fertilizers not used by plants, animal manures, much of it's going to stay right in place.
And until you can't put any more in there.
Until you can't put any more in there, and then you continue to have plant production remove phosphorus from that system.
The fields then become inoperable.
Yes.
The way the P-index works is if you do increase your, there's a lot of factors that go into it, but as you increase your soil test phosphorus level, that's input into the P-index, eventually it's going to raise you out of a safe range to put that out there. You know, if you held all other factors constant and just looked at the increase of soil test phosphorus, eventually there'll come a point in time when we say it's high risk to continue putting it on there based on how high the soil test is.
Just to follow up on that, I worked with EPA basically to answer that one question. And one of the criticisms of EPA was that and there's been a lot of work done in the last few years, every state now has to have an index that has a stopping point. It has to have a red light, so you cannot apply anymore. And the states are given freedom to determine that. But each state, an index has to say, there's enough phosphorus in that soil now. And so, yes, there will be a limit where other fuel will have to be found.
And I think another thing, we've gotten so focused on the phosphorus index part of this that we've lost another bigger part or bigger picture on this project. And that is the manure management, the possibility of solid separation, the possibility of farm export of this valuable phosphorus resource to the other fields where farmers want it and need it, so that it is utilized in the other fields. Where if you can't export it, you do have these concerns. So that's part of the balance act that we're trying to address, and also it's where we have implications not only for this particular farm, but also farms across the state. But it is a real challenge, as Andrew indicated, with that juggling act. There's a lot of factors that have to be balanced out.
We have a question up here.
Okay, let's be clear though that the geology is not part of the phosphorus index. Okay, let's be really clear that it's not a component, and so this is in a karst environment which is highly fractured.
That is absolutely true, but if you look at the broader scope of how the nutrient management plans are written as part of our regulatory system, the sinkholes, karst topography, rock outcrops are buffered out, so the applications don't take place on those areas. They take place offset. So they're being applied to a soil filter area where production is taking place. And that's part of the study that we're having, is to address those issues and better quantify that.
But let me just say that those dissolution streams, you can't see those. Those are underneath. So there are a lot of hidden things that you can't buffer out. So, and I would like to ask as another follow-on question, when you go through revisions of the phosphorus index for Arkansas, are you considering adding the geological component to that as part of your risk management?
Yes, I mean, we can do that, yes. I mean, I'm not saying that, there's a different agency doing that, but yes, I mean, we could take that as a good idea, yes. I think one of the things that we will find out, I mean, this again is science. We're not saying this is right or wrong. We're saying if we find out that that the phosphorus is moving through those things, and we think we have some of the equipment in there to do that, then there has to be revisions to that. The science will dictate that maybe we do need these other safeguards in these settings. Yes.
Thank you. Next question.
Yes, I think you mentioned at the beginning that there was a hydrologist with your team. Is that correct?
Yes.
I may have missed it somewhere, but I don't see anybody's name in the report that would formally call themselves a hydrologist. It's not indicated in here.
Dr. Haggard, who used to work for USDS.
Okay.
I use what he called himself, ecological engineer, but basically
That's not the same thing.
he's a training as a hydrologist, as a research hydrologist with USDA.
Has Dr. Bahana been invited in on this project?
Yes, well, I will say that early on in the process, this team met with Dr. Brahana and members of the Park Service to discuss our plans, get their input, and all of our plans that you heard back here were made with those comments and their input.
So were they invited to be on this international panel that you invited, or multi-state panel?
Anyone within the state of Arkansas was not considered
Why not?
to be on our review panel.
Was Dr. Bahana not considered?
Well, we wanted on our...
He probably knows more about karst and hydrology in the Ozarks than anybody in the state, and in the whole Midwest.
We recognize that, but we wanted folks from outside the state who had equal
Well,
qualifications.
why do you want that?
Do you
Why
have
not
a
get
karst
somebody that's familiar with
hydrologist
it,
on
guys?
They're not biased.
How about getting somebody that spent their whole life studying this?
We feel like we've got a good team. who-
I don't feel like that. You haven't convinced me.
Yeah, but I feel like I have.
Good for you. Good for you. Go raise some hogs, man.
Let's just briefly address, yes, we have, as I say, he has provided input to it. We do have the highest regard for his science, and he's provided input to the program.
One other question. You had mentioned in field number 5 that you didn't feel like there was going to be any water flowing through that. Is that, did I understand, you're
No.
talking about the piezometer test?
No, that was the fact that that would not receive manure at the present time.
Okay, but it will. It's
Be
planned.
background.
It's in the plan though, correct?
Yes,
I'm not sure I understood what you said about the spring testing and the piezometer and water moving through that. I may have misunderstood what you were saying
I'm
through
saying
to the
we're still
spring.
going to continue to put the equipment in now because it will provide us as a benchmark to understand what's coming off of those fields with the current normal practices that those landowners are implementing.
Okay, do you plan to do any dye tracing there in
Yes.
field 5? Good.
We've got other questions. You have your hand raised for Bob.
Yes, I think in the original work plan presented to the legislature, there was going to be monitoring wells, for example, to look at leakage from the ponds. Is that no longer on the table? I didn't see it in the what next.
We still are. He has a well that's been installed, that was previously installed there that we're gonna monitor, that's close to his, would be beneath, just down slope a little bit from his ponds.
Those are the mission, so yes,
That will start. You haven't got any samples yet.
we would have permission.
And you have permission to do it.
Thank you for that.
There's like 15 or 16 fields in this farm, and you're gonna monitor 2. The third one, you're not even gonna have to be they're gonna be sprayed. How did you select 2 out of 15 or 16 that you were going to monitor?
It's a very good question. Andrew hasn't answered. No, I tell you, we knew we couldn't do all 17 fields.
Right.
I mean, we wish we could, but there are practical constraints. And so we look at the number of fields, and we think there's 12 fields that are somewhat similar in landscape position, right along Big Creek, and we selected 2 of them. And that was field 5 and field 12. In contrast to that, and those are soils, as Andrew mentioned, were formed in alluvial processes from flooding and deposition. We moved back up the hill, back up away from Big Creek on field 1. It was one of the 3 or 4 fields that are moored in upland colluvial or residual type soil development. And so we felt that would be a good contrast to have 2 down there and 1 on top of the hill that had completely different features underneath the surface in terms of how those soils form. And the karst features are much more prominent as you go away from Big Creek and go up on those hillsides and those ridge tops.
And the thing
And
that
the
we need-
farmer lets you know when he's putting things out,
Yes.
when he's spraying, and
Yes.
you're getting all those from
We
the
get
farmer.
prior notice, yes. But the other thing we want to point out is that we have to have permission to go on those fields.
Yeah.
And those are the fields that we did receive permission from. some we get
Yeah.
for different reasons. I'm not
We've
going
had
into
two
that.
or three folks patiently waiting to ask their question.
Do you recommend a back tanker using liquid waste from pond number 1 on field 739?
Say that again?
You're gonna have to say it louder for us.
Do you recommend a back tanker using liquid waste from pond number 1 on field 739?
From a scientific perspective, there's no difference between the application of liquid manure with a vacuum tanker and an irrigation system.
What about the difference in the pond?
There's a difference in the pond between pond 1 and pond 2. Because pond 1, manure flows from the barn directly into it. You have gravity settling that takes place. So it's top water that flows over to the second pond. But that's not the question he asked. The question asked, was the vacuum tanker from one truck field to the other? That really doesn't make a difference.
But they will be using both systems.
If that gets approved, by ADEQ as a permanent modification, but that's not what ULA's fault.
I'm just asking for your
Sure.
recommendation.
But like I said, from a scientific perspective, there's no difference.
Dr. Sharpley, you're a scientist, and I know that you've put together a fantastic team of scientists, and you're looking at the scientific questions and the risk-benefit ratio of the science. But on a deeper level, is there anyone, or is there any plans of doing an economic analysis, the virtue of CAPOs versus the $43 million that was put into the watershed economy in the most recent fiscal year study? National Park Service just put out a report about this. So what type of ag econ study
That's
could be
a very
planned for
good
this?
question, but for this team, it's outside the scope of what we've been asked to do. We simply don't have the manpower to do that.
Is there anyone from the University of Arkansas, any ag econ person that'd be interested in studying
We
this?
have capable people of doing it, but it is gonna require some of our fully employed people to have that time dedicated to that project. Right
There
now,
could
we don't-
could be funding available for such a study.
You got the money, honey?
We'll talk about that.
First of all, thank you for taking the time to give us this preliminary information. According to public documents, Cargill has had some input into the study, and I'm just wondering why and how extensive is that? There's been discussion, Cargill didn't want us to do this or that.
Very early on, they asked to review what we might be doing, and so we complied and suggested, told them what we were thinking of doing. They made some recommendations. I've not received a Christmas card from them, let's say that. They have not been involved in determining what we have done.
Not which fields or anything?
No. They, I purposely ignored. I allowed them to have the freedom to say what they felt, it was important for them to say, but we did the decision. That would absolutely bias and tarnish anything that we do on that farm, and we will stay away from getting into that type of any situation. Either side.
We've got two folks who've been holding up here. He's been holding up his hand straight.
I'm getting tired. Yeah. Did I understand earlier you made a comment that there were some of the fields that y'all were denied access to? And if that's true, why were you denied access to those particular fields?
I can't give you a reason. There were certain fields that we got access to, and we didn't feel that it was our position to ask why didn't they want us there, or why they weren't wanting to give us permission. I don't know. I can't answer your question. We didn't ask why.
Let me ask.
We accepted that they chose not to permission.
Do you feel that the fields you have been given access to are as adequate as the ones you were denied access to for your study purposes?
Yes.
The ones we wanted to be on were frankly bigger, but we wanted to be adjacent to the creek. Obviously, if those are the application fields, those are probably the prime ones, so we want to be there. We have 2 of those. So yes, they are the type of fields, like Mike says, the type of landscape position that we want. We also want to be on the top, where there's more definite karst features.
Thank you.
No, I want to hear your question.
This is in regards to your response talking about hiring folks outside of the state and hopefully wanting to get sort of.
Hiring may not be the proper terminology.
Okay.
We've asked them to come in and consult with our team.
Okay. Okay. So, and then following up on the question about Cargill, what I'd like to just point to your attention was it was directed from Andrew Sharpley, and one of the things that Andrew said, Dr. Sharpley said, was Mark presented our role in any presence on the CNH farm was first and foremost the research and extension was to provide sound science on nutrient state and transfer on the farm under the approved nutrient management plan. My first question is, I'm not quite understanding, because when Governor Beebe charged the U of A, I thought it was to sort of deputize the U of A to focus on any environmental harm that was related to CNH farm. As I get more into this, I'm seeing that your scope is broadened to become more managers of the nutrients and more how to make CNH sustainable. And that seems different than actually being a group, independent, unbiased, to find the points of this hog farm and how it might contaminate the river. And my follow-up question, if I may, in response to your answer to the Cargill, is that prior to your legislative council meeting on the 5th, you had a meeting with Farm Bureau, Jason, and Cargill, and your Dr. Sharpley's comment was a decision was then being made as to whether to move forward with this plan conducted by the Division of Agriculture at the request of the landowner and with the approval of Cargill and leased landowners whose property Jason's supplies were received. So I'd like to know if it's an independent, unbiased study, why was Cargill seated at the table?
They asked to be. They wanted to be because they basically...
Dr. Brahana asked to be part of the study also. Dr. Brahana asked to be part of the study.
And he was involved at the same time, so he was given that same freedom.
But Cargill gave you approval on certain issues to move forward?
As I say, they disagreed, as you read out. We took it in good judgment, but the decision was made to do this because the farmer requested it. He had to
do what?
Persuade others that this was the right thing.
I think
he had to persuade others to do.
No, I'm saying that this was the farmer that came to us to ask us to do this scientific study. So yes, Cargill came. We extended the same opportunity, and they looked over the plan. I chose to not consider what they suggested because I didn't think it was sound science.
May I interrupt? I think you made a point there that we do need to clarify. We are on the site collecting data, working with the landowner to explore options for manure management choices and decisions. We are going to be presenting information, options, but we will not make decisions. On private property, it will be the landowner making those decisions because it's his farm. As far as broader implications in terms of policies and everything else, it will be different sets of our clientele, different agencies and organizations and the public that will be utilizing information. We're collecting information, we're distributing information, we're not making decisions with that information.
I think we asked a question too about, as our mission broadened from what the governor's office commissioned, we actually were involved with this farmer before that about at his request. He came into our county office and asked for help in implementing his plan, just like many farmers do all over the state. It's been our mission for over 100 years to work with landowners to take research-based information and transfer it to farmers.
I understand that, sir, but you get $340,000 at the taxpayer's expense to do that. I wish I could walk into my extension's office and get that same kind of people.
We didn't initiate that.
We have time for
Just
one
one
more
last comment
question.
to that is that.
Where are you
you're right,
going?
The broader sustainability, I think the presentation shows that probably 3/4 of the effort there is assessing water quality impact. That's the goal.
This young lady's been very patient. Please ask your question.
My main question is, how long are you guys planning on observing the site? Like, there's so much in agriculture, I feel like, if you're not in the agricultural sciences, or you are not a farmer, people don't understand the long-term, like, thinking of agricultural systems in anything shorter than 3 years is excuse my language, but it's less. And really, people should be thinking about it on a 5 to 10 year basis. So how long are you planning to monitor this system is my question. And then I had a couple comments. One, from a scientific basis, you never want to have the people that are overseeing or checking your science from your region or from your area, because that in and of itself can create a bias. So I can understand why you would think that not having someone from Arkansas who knows the topography and who knows this intuitively and extensively would be the person you want to go to. But if you're checking the science that someone else is doing, you want someone that's totally removed, because that is where you get those unbiased opinions from.
Thank you for your question.
I guess-
I'll let Andrew answer, but I will say, we received money that would fund at least 1 year study. That's the expensive part of the study. Follow-on research and follow-on years would be less expensive, but we have not received money to do anything beyond the first
Well,
year.
when you're dealing with things like phosphorus buildup in these types of manure management systems, you're not going to get the information you need in 1 year. I mean, it's not enough
I think
time.
our team would agree with you.
I think the outline of the plan was originally 5 years. We feel that 5 years will give us the weather changes, fluctuations. I think a minimum of 5 years we need to get, if there's a long-term problem, then we need to do it. Yes, so you're right. And, other people that are doing the work in the state, we're not competing with them at all. We're not trying to compete with anybody else who's doing similar work on this program.
I know we've got additional questions, but we have unfortunately run out of time. You're welcome to hear the questions for all of our panel members outside of the classroom. Thank you.
Okay, no.
I do want to slip by you though.
Okay,
Hi, Aubrey.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I think I always well, you're not. No, I'm the study already does. But I'll go ahead and figure it out, and I'll put all my figuring out. Okay, and we'll just keep it all like that.